Welcome to this week's episode of So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast on Western Mass News. This week, our podcast is brought to you by the Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity's Building Dreams Benefit, which is taking place on Thursday, November 7th at Twin Hills Country Club in Longmeadow. I'm Chris Maza, and I am hosting today's podcast, and I was joined by Aimee Giroux, the Executive Director of the Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity, for a little discussion about this upcoming benefit, which is their largest fundraising opportunity of the year. It promises to be a night of entertainment, cocktails, raffles, and auctions, all while making a difference in the Greater Springfield community. So we are very happy to have Aimee here to talk about this event and all of the good works that it goes to support. And we'll get right to that discussion right after these short messages.
Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity's Building Dreams benefit is just around the corner. Don't miss your chance to enjoy a night of entertainment, cocktails, raffles, and auctions, all while making a real difference in the Greater Springfield community. Doors open at 6 p.m. on November 7th at Twin Hills Country Club in Longmeadow. For more information, visit habitatspringfield.org/building-dreams. Proceeds benefit our work in Hampden County. Tickets are $100 each. We can't wait to see you there. The holiday season is quickly approaching, and you can bring joy to a child's life with just one small act of kindness. The Salvation Army's Toy for Joy campaign is in full swing, and we are asking you to help make a difference. Your monetary donation will help provide thousands of Western Mass children with a toy and a book, filling their holiday season with joy and imagination. At Toy for Joy, we believe every child deserves to experience the magic of the holidays. Your support can help make this wish a reality. Visit give.salvationarmy.org/toy4joy today and give the gift of joy. Together, we can make this holiday season brighter for every child. Toy for Joy is a partnership between the Salvation Army, Reminder Publishing, and the Republican.
And I am here with Aimee Giroux, who is the Executive Director of the Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity, and we are here to talk about the Building Dreams benefit. But before we get to that, Aimee, I feel like people have a general idea of what Habitat does. But if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit more of a more holistic picture of the mission and what you do, especially here in Greater Springfield.
Sure. So most people, when they think about Habitat, they think about volunteering to go out and build a house, or Jimmy Carter, which Jimmy is a great volunteer for us, but he did not found us. But we appreciate all of these sort of what he brought to the organization, and we're wishing him well. So Habitat basically helps to provide affordable housing solutions, and every Habitat operates independently, but under the one, umbrella of Habitat International. So what we do in Springfield might be a little bit different than what they're doing in Boston or out on the Cape, things like that, because our work is really focused on meeting the needs of the community where we're working. And what does that entail? Here in Greater Springfield, we focus mostly on doing new housing development for home ownership opportunities. We do some home repair, primarily for veterans and seniors that need modifications so that they can age in place in their homes. And then we also do a lot of sort of sub-programs where we're supporting youth workforce development by having students from the vocational schools come out and volunteer on our sites or work co-op with us to learn construction skills. And then a lot of empowerment things, too, through other programs, like when we do Women Build or Pride Build and things like that. Because what we really want to create is a very open, welcoming environment for the whole community to be part of what we're doing.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is what may be happening with one Habitat group may not be happening
right.
with someone else. What are some of the challenges that you see in this area that maybe you wouldn't see or are unique to this area?
So I think unique to our area is the mixture of kind of urban and rural. There's a lot of habitats that are just focused in a rural community or in an urban area. And here we're trying to fix a lot of things that are Springfield, but also Munson, and those are two very different places. And so it's trying to help everybody within Hampden County who has those individual needs, and working with a lot of different municipalities and a lot of zoning and a lot of things like that. But in general, there's just this huge need to create more units, and that's what we're trying to do, but also to develop partnerships with other people where we can do that together. Because we recognize that, single-family home ownership may not be the option for everybody. Sometimes you do need those rentals, or you do need these other things. So who can we partner with to, make this a broader impact to help more people?
Now, how do you go about identifying projects and identify where the need is and how you're going to execute various projects?
So a lot of it is based off of where we can obtain land, because that's the kind of the hardest part for us to get is, suitable building land and things like that. And then we'll open it up to application cycles, and we work with families that are typically earning 60% median AMI or below. And a lot of these families aren't able to go to a bank to be able to get a mortgage for a house. They just don't meet a lot of the guidelines, even for some of the first-time home programs out there. And so we're working with that kind of family who they're out there working, but they might be working 2 jobs and they still can't save enough for that 20% down payment, or with the skyrocketing interest rates, there's nothing on the market for them to be able to buy because they've been priced out of it all. So those are the families that we're really trying to focus on. We will do a lot of outreach, so we'll have a lot of information centers at local libraries, senior centers, neighborhood council centers and things like that, so people understand what we're doing and help them through the application process, which is hard because we'll typically get 70, 80 applicants for one house. And it just kind of shows that depth of need to what we can actually do. Construction is expensive. It's not and it's only going up. So it's like, to build a house, it's costing us somewhere between $220,000 and $250,000.
Sure.
So that's a lot of money to raise for one project. But we like to tell people it's not just about that one family who's getting that opportunity. It is much broader than that. When we're working in a community, we are impacting economically that thing. We're buying local. We're hiring local subcontractors when we need those. We're, bringing the community out to volunteer, and there's a lot of great benefit to volunteerism from mental health perspectives. So there's a whole lot more behind just the structure of one house. And so that's kind of, what we like to bring out is how that one house really spreads throughout the neighborhood, and we consider that like our ripple effect.
Sure. Yeah, there's a big impact on just community building in addition to the economic impacts.
Yeah, and many times when we come out into a neighborhood and we start construction, we'll see the neighbors all of a sudden come out and start painting their front porch or doing something in their yard, because it's like, oh, somebody else cares about where this street now or what we're doing. Okay, it's time for us to get back into that and to have some pride in our neighborhood and things like that. I mean, every project we do probably has about 250 volunteers who help us. That's a lot of people coming out to be part of this and to want to make a neighborhood, thrive.
Now, if someone was looking you said that you get a lot of applicants for a single house. How do people apply? How does this work?
So we have the application process. They have to fill that out. And because they are purchasing a home from us, Habitat is not a freebie. We don't give away houses. They do buy the house from us. The first step is trying to see, their income eligibility and what, if they can take on obtaining that mortgage and be able to make a monthly mortgage payment. So we are looking at financials and things like that. When somebody doesn't qualify, we want to stay and work with that family still to teach them how to fix their credit, how to do these things, how to budget so that the next time we take this, they're in a better spot. So it's a lot of financial literacy. It's a lot of education on that part, credit scores and everything like that. But we do an open application cycle, work with them. Everybody who's qualified, then they're basically entered into a lottery system, and that one person is selected out of that. And then for us, in lieu of down payment, we have the family provide sweat equity. So every family that works with us comes out and puts 300 to 500 hours of their own, volunteer service into the construction of their house or another project that we might have going on. So they're vested in this, but it also helps teach them some maintenance skills so that once they move in, they, know how to fix a thing or here or there, because that's a big part, is also educating the family on you're a homeowner now. That comes with responsibility. Mow your lawn, shovel your snow, learn how to get along with your neighbors. You want to be a good neighbor, and so we want to teach them those skills as well.
Well, sure. It's about, not just home dwelling, it's home ownership. I think that you brought up a great point, is some people have the misconception that Habitat is in the business of giving away homes. And certainly, maintaining that home financially is part of that, as well as maintaining it physically. So as part of this process, is Habitat helping these applicants understand how to manage that?
Yeah, so we do a lot of talk around escrow accounts and what that means, because you're paying your taxes and your homeowner's insurance, and unfortunately those things never go down. They tend to always go up. So we teach them about the need, that you're going to need to save, because what that escrow might be this year could change for next year. And yes, you're moving into a brand new house that has all these new fixtures, all these new mechanicals. Well, they all have a lifespan. Mm-hmm. And so, 10, 12, 15 years, whatever that might be, you may then need to buy that new water tank or whatever it might be. And it's your responsibility, because
Sure.
You're the homeowner. So teaching them about, budgeting for the future, and, maybe, when you're getting paid, set up a separate account, have 3 to 5% put into that, don't touch it, and use that to save for repairs that you might need down the line. So there's a lot around budgeting and future planning. We do a lot of estate planning as well. We'll have little mini clinics on that, so that in the future, because we're not all here forever, unfortunately, but you want to be planned, to be able to support your family with it. This is the biggest asset that most of these families have.
Sure.
So we want that to be able to be taken advantage of as fully as possible.
Excellent. Well, you did mention as well the financial burdens and challenges that are involved with putting these projects together, and we'll get into that in a moment, and how Habitat works to clear those hurdles to make sure that people have these opportunities in just a moment, right after a couple of brief messages.
Are you planning your second act? Working on your bucket list? Investing for early retirement? If you've hit that point in life where time will soon be yours, let Prime Magazine be your guide. We're all about staying healthy and fit, keeping up with tech, traveling, local entertainment, managing finances, caring for your kids and elders, and much more. Pick up the latest copy of Prime Magazine every month. Prime, your best life now. We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news.
All right, and we're back. We are talking, of course, about the Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity's Building Dreams benefit, which is coming up. And one of the things before the break that you mentioned is that there's a significant financial commitment that's made by Habitat to make sure that this program continues, and that obviously depends greatly on the generosity of a lot of people and probably a lot of different funding sources. So before we get into this specific benefit, what are some of the ways that Habitat keeps this going financially? So
Habitat is not government backed, and we have no designated funding source. So everything that we do comes from our direct fundraising efforts, and every affiliate has to do that separately, and we're sort of regulated to working within the communities where we work. So, we have a lot of corporate support from small businesses who might either make a product that we can use in the construction process, such as screws or nails or siding, and they donate that to us. Or we may have groups that just bring their team members out for a build day on our site to, lend some of that volunteer support or to be a sponsor for an event that we're doing. But most of the money and things that we use for our projects are from individual donations. We do some grants. We do have some municipalities that we're able to get some funding that they have for, through the state or through HUD. But everything that's there, we are in competition with other organizations and other people for as well. So it is the generosity of many individuals that actually keep us going.
And also, I'd imagine events like the Building Dreams benefit, which is coming up on November 7th, which is a Thursday, and will be taking place at the Twin Hills Country Club in Longmeadow. What can you tell me about this event?
So we, for many years, had an event called Fall Feastival, and this is sort of a rebranding of that event. And it's usually our biggest sort of fundraising event of the year. It is a great networking cocktail kind of hour. We do have a silent auction that is part of that and some other fun things that happen in the middle. But we try to, Habitat likes to think of ourselves as, we are a construction company and we don't like to be stuffy. So when we do events and when we have things, we want people to come out and have a good time with us. We want to be able to share and celebrate the work that we do and the families that we've helped. And we want that to be a good time while we're doing it. So we look to have things that are, kind of fun. So this event is at Twin Hills, and it is on the 7th. You can go to our website, habitatspringfield.org, to purchase tickets. And this year, our silent auction will also be online. So even if you can't make it that night, you can sit on your sofa at home and be able to bid on items as well. So that's something new that we're bringing to it. And so we're kind of excited to see how that works. Hopefully no technical difficulties. But
I'm sure there will be none. It'll all go very smoothly.
But we have a lot of our supporters, a lot of our volunteers that come out and talk, and, we'll slideshow of, past projects, and everybody loves seeing themselves. Most people like seeing themselves out on the job site. Some people are like, don't look at me. But we just like to really recap, all of those who have helped us to do what we do and to really celebrate that and to celebrate our families.
Yeah, that's great. And I'd imagine that this is a great networking opportunity for Habitat as well.
It is. It's a great way for, us to meet new people, for them to learn about our organization, how they can help, and sometimes what we can do for them as well. Because like I said, a lot of what we do, we can't do alone. So it's through developing those partnerships that we're able to get more done.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've mentioned partnerships, and a couple of times you mentioned municipalities may have opportunities. In terms of partnerships with those municipalities, what do those look like? How does that work?
So a lot of it is advocacy. Mm-hmm. And so it's really making sure that city councils, that our legislators, that, those people who are in Boston, in Washington, understand, the need for affordable housing and the role that they can play in helping to get some of that funding down here. Sure. So we participate in an event called Habitat on the Hill, which happens in February out in Washington, to advocate for some of those funds to be distributed out, to cities and towns to be able to put funding in the hands of different organizations to fund projects and to make these developments. But a lot of it is, just within your local neighborhood, when you're electing your officials to come in, who are those who support housing and recognize the need that's there for it. So we do a lot of advocacy work and just sort of getting that message out. And while we focus a lot on home ownership, it is not the only means of affordable housing. So there is a need for rental housing. There is a need for a lot of different pieces out there. And so it's coming up with those comprehensive plans for communities of, what can we both do? What can we all come together to do here to help everybody as a whole? What are those pieces that are missing? So we'll hold a lot of events to get input when we're looking at projects. If we get a piece of land in an area, sometimes we might have a meeting of, how would you like to see that piece of property developed? It's in your backyard. What do you think that should look like? We want the neighbors, we want the community to be part of that planning process with us.
Now, you mentioned local legislators. I know that Representative Brian Ash was recently part of one of the recent bills, I believe, in West Springfield. Have you found that the local elected officials have been an ally to Habitat?
Yeah, right now this is probably the best and the most support that I feel affordable housing has had in a long time from a lot of our officials, coming right down from the governor on down. And I think people really see, that housing sets the standard for everything else, what it is. If you don't have that housing, that affects your education. If you don't have that housing, that affects your employment, and really stabilizing people's housing helps to bring everything else together, and so I think that this is a really exciting time with some of the things that have been passed out in Boston with the housing bond bill, but it's also just, making sure it gets used the right way. Sure. So Senator Rep. Ash did come out on the site and do that, and he used that nail gun. He did good. But that's what we want. We would love to invite all of our, city councilmen and things like that to come be a part of it, understand, when you're working side by side with the homeowner who's going to go into that property, that's the best way you're going to learn about what this really means. Mm-hmm.
Now, and if you are unsure as to whether or not you actually want to step onto a job site right off the bat, obviously this event, this Building Dreams benefit is a nice way to get your feet wet a little bit.
This is a great way to come and learn and be a part of it. And while most people think construction for volunteers, we do have opportunities for volunteering outside of the construction site. We do look for people to help us in our office, do some data entry, things like that. They can work on an event committee, so planning something like Building Dreams for next year. They can be a part of that. And when you're on the construction site, there isn't any experience that's needed. We work with lots of people at different levels, and our volunteers range from age 16 to 85. So, you're going to fit in somewhere with all of that. But this is a great opportunity to come and learn and see and celebrate with us and learn about future projects and how you might be able to help with those.
And be able to do all of that while having a good time.
Having a good time, yeah. We're all about having a good time.
Now, with this fundraising event, is there a goal? Is there something you're looking to reach?
So we typically hope to raise about $50,000 with this event. More is always better. So that come in. But it's also just all about bringing awareness and having those people in the room. Normally we have about 300 people in the room for this. And so that's great because we like to think that those 300 people are going to go back out and tell their friends and bring us in. So just getting people there is a huge piece of it as well, so that the more people who know what we're doing, the more impact that we can have.
All right. And now, when you mention Greater Springfield, as part of the name Greater Springfield, what is your total reach? When people are listening to this, they're like, does this affect my community too? Is my community benefiting from this?
So we basically cover most of Hampden County.
Okay.
So it's a big area.
It is. And like you said,
it's a very diverse area, because what we may work on in Westfield is different than Springfield, or like I said, we're out in Palmer and Munson and things like that, and it's very, very different. We've got rural communities, we've got suburban, and everybody has a need. That's the one thing, is even if you can't see it, every community that we're involved in has a need.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining me. Once again, if people are looking to get involved or looking to purchase tickets, how would they do that?
HabitatSpringfield.org. Just go to the website and everything is right there. You can sign up to volunteer, you can purchase tickets, you can learn more about us.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Anything else you'd like to add that we haven't touched on?
No, we just hope that people will listen to this and want to come out and be a part of working with us.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the time, and I hope that you have a great event. It sounds like it's going to be a terrific time.
Yeah, we hope so. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again to Aimee Giroux for joining me to talk about the Greater Springfield Habitat for Humanity's Building Dreams benefit, which again is taking place on Thursday, November 7th at Twin Hills Country Club in Longmeadow. The doors for this event will open at 6 p.m., and if you are interested in purchasing tickets, please go to habitatspringfield.org/buildingdreams. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.